Hey, what's up, dudes? Welcome back to the channel. Today I want to talk about Street Fighter 6 a little bit. So there has been a lot of discourse around Street Fighter 6 like recently, and I've been one of the people for sure who's been like, nah, the game's good, the game's fine, the game's fun, right? And that's because after Street Fighter 5 and Mortal Kombat 11, and Tekken 7, I was just over the defensive, spend an hour in neutral. Most of your matches are round timing out. Super frustrating stuff when it came to those games. Mortal Kombat 11 specifically for me. I actually found my fun in Tekken 7 and Street Fighter 5. But Mortal Kombat 11 really did me in there. So when Street Fighter 6 came out, it was super refreshing. We had the drive rush mechanic, drive impact, parries back. All of these mechanics and mix-ups, a lot of characters had high-low mix-ups, and it was fast as hell, it was fun as hell, it was explosive, it sold really well, there was a ton of people playing, 6,000 EVO entrants and everything else. And I put around 370 some hours into the game when it first came out. I almost got Ken to Master. I got him to Diamond 5. I had my existential crisis, if I can get that word out. I had a crisis, why am I even trying so hard to get him to Master? But that was after getting him to Diamond 5, getting Ryu up into Diamond something, Diamond 3, Diamond 4. Same with Chun-Li and another character, I believe. So I put a lot of time into the game when it first came out. And then I kind of took a break with it. I didn't keep up too much with news and everything else. I came back occasionally to play a little bit of Ken, a little bit of Ryu, but I really came back when Akuma came out. I came back in the aspect of playing a few matches here and there, maybe every day, maybe every few days, right? And then Terry came out. I played a little bit, not a terrible amount, but when Mai actually got announced, I went back and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna get Terry to Master and get ready for Mai because I was super excited for her. So I got Terry to Master, Mai came out, and in that time span, I've started to see the cracks because, as I said, there's been a lot of discourse around the game and around the mechanics of the game, specifically Drive Rush, but I have my problems with even more than Drive Rush, and we're going to go through them. Hopefully you guys understand where I'm coming from. Some of this is definitely a skill issue. I'm an average player. I have the ability to get my characters to Master. I'll probably try my best to get them to High Master and Ultimate Master, whatever else. I'm not hitting Legend. I'm not a professional player. I'm average. I am what most people in fighting games are. So let's start out. First, I want to talk about Drive Impact. Drive Impact is one of those mechanics. When the game first came out, there were a lot of pro players who were like, don't use it. It's not good. You're going to get punished. We're going to react to it every time. As I've come back, watching tournaments, playing ranked, being in Master, being in high diamond ranks, it feels like people are using Drive Impact a lot more. And they're using it a lot differently than when the game first came out, those first few months that the game was out. It feels like people are doing a lot of empty jumps in the Drive Impact. They're doing a lot of weird funky shit in the Drive Impact, and mainly blowing up neutral with it. And that's probably the most frustrating thing. Street Fighter 6 is a game where it's hard to play any type of neutral. Because if you're throwing out heavies, which are 9 times out of 10, your neutral move to try to poke back and forth, like Mai, her neutral heavy kick, her neutral heavy punch, they're really good. Her light punch is also decent, but the other moves are just absolutely the best. They have forward advancing properties. They're really good moves, and a lot of characters are like that. But it is kind of hard in some aspects because I've found myself getting drive impacted relentlessly whenever I try to play footsies in neutral. I'm bad, maybe skill issue, right? But it just feels like drive impact is a little cheap. And I didn't really feel like that when the game first came out. But now, as I put more time in it, as people have had more time, obviously, we've had almost 2 years with it. People have played it a lot more. They understand it fundamentally. Drive Impact, 2 years later almost, feels really cheap. But there's a simple fix to it. There's a really simple fix to kind of alleviate the problems with Drive Impact, and that's to make the armor 1 hit less. Right now it's 2 hits of armor, and a 3rd hit completely breaks them out of it. You get a punish, whatever. So I feel like if it was 1 hit of armor and then the 2nd hit is getting the punish, I feel like that's a whole lot better, dude. That fixes a lot of things. It also feels super cheap when you're burnt out. Obviously burnt out's not a good thing. You put yourself in that position 9 times out of 10 by using all of your green shit in one way or another, whether you were doing combos, whether you were getting it chipped out on block, whether you were getting hit. whatever it may be. Being in burnout is usually your fault, so it's a bad thing. But I don't feel like it should be so bad that you almost get a guaranteed drive impact. I really don't feel like that's a fair thing. And obviously, yeah, there's counters to it. If you have an invulnerable level 1 or level 2, that gets you out of it. You can grab people out of the drive impact if you react in time, but there's some pressure in the game. Like, for instance, Ryu has really tricky timing on his pressure. His down back punch, I'm pretty sure, I believe it's his down back heavy punch. Even when you're not burnt out and you're just trying to EXDP it to get the invulnerable frames to get out of the pressure, it still has tricky timing. So like, grabbing people out of that is a little weird, and same with doing any kind of super. It's a little funky. I don't believe it should be as good as it is when you're burnt out. It's almost guaranteed in some instances. Of course, I have been hit out of it by supers a good amount, but nowhere near the amount of times that I just absolutely doink someone into a wall splat. It's maybe 80-20, me getting the wall splat or me getting supered. So I feel like that would alleviate some of the problems there. Obviously, still, skill issue. It is what it is when it comes to that. Anything you say when it comes to fighting games and discourse around game mechanics, you're gonna hear skill issue get good. And that's fine. But I feel like we want these games to get better. And obviously there's a ton of discourse around the game right now, so it kind of is what it is. The next thing I want to talk about is Drive Rush. I feel like the game's just a meme at this point from what I've seen on Twitter now that I've looked into the discourse a little bit. From what I've seen on Twitter, it's literally like the meme is EX Fireball, Fireball, Drive Rush, right? Whether it's EX or just a normal Fireball, if they don't react to it and, you know, throw a Fireball back, or if it's EX, it's guaranteed just EX Drive Rush. If they jump, DP. If they don't jump, you're in. Mix them. You have the mix of high-low mix, you have frame traps, you have your throw. Like, there's a lot going on with Drive Rush, and it's not that hard to abuse. And that's because I feel like it doesn't take enough meter to use Drive Rush. I feel like that's a simple fix when it comes to Drive Rush. You don't have to do much more than make it take a little bit more meter so people aren't using it as willy-nilly because fear of burnout. Because burnout is still bad regardless of whether drive impact is nerfed a little bit. It being in burnout is still a really bad thing to happen because a lot of moves end up being like plus or at least neutral when they're burnt out. So it's still definitely a bad thing. So just make it cost a little bit more meter so people aren't abusing it as often. And I think that's really all you have to do with Drive Rush. I think Drive Rush overall is a good mechanic, and it opens up a lot more combo potential, and it's made the game a lot more hype. I just feel like it needs to be a little bit more expensive for how you can currently use it. And obviously up next is throw loops, man. Throw loops in Street Fighter 6 are extremely frustrating. You get put into the corner, you have to think about whether it's going to be an immediate drive impact when you're getting up, when you're waking up. You have to worry about whether it's going to be a meaty, you have to worry about whether it's going to be a neutral jump, or you have to worry about whether it's going to be a grab. And not every character in the game has a really good throw loop, but a lot of characters in the game have a really good throw loop. And that's kind of the thing with Street Fighter 6. What makes you a good character is how fast your drive rush is and how good your throw loop is. And it's super, super annoying that that's what it comes down to. See, Juri's a really good character because she has an insane dash, which sets up throw loops. She also has a really quick drive rush and long, low normals. Like, her low forward is super, super long. Makes her a super good character. Same with Ryu and Ken. They have throw loops. They are really good characters. They have really good shimmies that lead to punish counters on those throw loops if their opponent tries to tech the grab and, you know, they shimmy them. It's a super frustrating gameplay loop that is in Street Fighter 6 right now. And it looked like they were kind of turning it around with Terry and Akuma. Kinda, but mostly Terry. And then Mai drops, and she has one of the nastiest throw loops in the game. Super frustrating. Man, it's hard to even say anything else about it, because if you experienced it, you know exactly what I'm talking about. There's just so many different options that the pressuring person has to do on Oki. It's insane. And I'm usually not one for defensive mechanics, but the one defensive mechanic we have against that is parry, and if you parry on a throw, it does like 2 times the damage almost. So it's super, super annoying. You have your DP wake up, but again, that's part of the throw loop. Are they going to throw you? Are they going to shimmy you? Are they going to block? It's just, it's a super frustrating thing to deal with in the game, and it's been talked about for years, and I'm surprised they really haven't done anything about it. I'm surprised they didn't address address it at the beginning of Season 2. But they didn't. We're still living with it, and it's super frustrating. The last thing I want to talk about is a little bit, it's hard to talk about. It's hard to debate balance, whether it should be there, where it should be cut off, if it should be cut off, whether it should be removed. And I'm the first person to talk about fighting game accessibility. I don't think every fighting game needs to be as hard as Street Fighter 4 with one-frame links, or Third Strike, or, you know, or MK9. I don't think every fighting game needs to be super, super hard. I think there should be some casual accessibility there, some mechanics that make the game a little bit easier for people to get into, and modern controls is definitely one of those in Street Fighter. It's Street Fighter 6. It's a good mechanic to a point. It's a good addition to a point. That point is Diamond, I would say. It's just super frustrating to go up against someone who's Diamond 4. You can obviously tell that they are a good fighting game player. They are very decent at the game. They understand neutral, footsies, fundamentals, etc. And then they have access to one-button supers and one-button DPs. Playing someone in Diamond who is using modern controls, you might as well plan on never jumping, like, at all, period. And that is a super frustrating thing. That is absolutely a super frustrating thing. They kind of take away, like, some of your game plan because they have access to a one-button DP. People can actually break out of your pressure a lot easier, because if they know the gaps and they have that one button DP, they don't have to do the motion anymore. They can literally just press one button and I think a forward movement or something like that, and they get an instant DP. It's a difficult thing to talk about because it really helps people get into fighting games, and I think it's good up until the point of like Diamond 1, Diamond 2, but I think that past that point, should it be taken away? I don't know, because then you have to think about disabled people who have missing fingers, missing arms. I've seen people play fighting games at a high level with their feet, dude, because they don't have arms, and it's impressive as hell. And this mechanic makes it easier on them, but it's also something that everybody, not everybody else obviously, but other people abuse, and it makes the game unfun. When you're going up against somebody you can tell is a good player, and obviously you don't know them personally, you don't know if they have a disability, but not everybody you run into at, you know, Diamond 4, Diamond 5 Master who is on modern controls is disabled. You know, that is super, super unlikely. So you have people abusing the modern mechanic to get an advantage with one button DPs and shit. It's super frustrating. It's a hard conversation to have, and I don't know what the right answer is, but it's definitely something that's frustrating. I think it should be a thing to where they should maybe work on the modern system a little bit. Maybe make some things take inputs, like even if it's down forward, that's not as hard as forward down forward, but that's not as easy as forward. So maybe just some adjustments there to make it feel a little bit more fair when you go up against a modern player, a person who's using modern even though they know how to play the game outside of that. I don't know. It's a hard conversation to have. It's a skill issue, I guess. I don't know. But what I do know is I want you guys to let me know what you think about all this in the comments down below. I'm very curious to hear what you guys have to say about all of this. How do you feel about it? What do you think should be changed? Do you think anything should be changed? Do you think it's game's fun? Get over it. Get good, motherfucker. All I know is recently, every time I boot up Street Fighter 6 and play for more than like 3 or 4 matches, I sit there and I think, holy shit, thank God Fatal Fury City of the Wolves is only like 2 months away, dude, because it's really been frustrating here lately. I feel like that's been exemplified with Mai a little bit. Mai's release, even though I love the character, I have so much fun with her, I love her, it's been super, super frustrating since she released for whatever reason. I don't know. Anyways, dudes, thank you guys so much for watching. I really appreciate it. If you enjoyed the video, please give it a like. If you want more content like this, subscribe to the channel. That's gonna do it for me, dudes. My name is Toot, and I've been your host, and I will see you guys next time. Peace out.